McKinsey surveyed nearly 2,000 companies about AI. Only about 100 made the cut as AI high performance. That's about 6%, the ones that actually pull some meaningful profit from AI. Everyone else, they've got strategy, they spend the money, they tick the boxes, but nothing to show for it. At least not yet. Now, McKinsey built their entire report around what these winners do differently. And later, I'm going to walk you through their playbook. It sounds compelling, it sounds logical, but there are more than one calculations that buried in this report, those that McKinsey never does for you. Now, stay with me, we'll get there gradually. Hey, I'm Jane. This is Second Order Thinkers. I'm here to tell you what's wrong with these consultancy reports and the latest AI research paper. Now, first, let's talk about why you should be skeptical of everything in this report. Well, there are some data sets that's worth referencing. Now, it started by saying 88% of the organization use AI. That's the number. That's what gets quoted in the LinkedIn post and strategic document. Before you panic about being left behind, let's look at what McKinsey actually means of using AI, because this definition has shifted. Every single year, the standard of using AI gets lowered. From 2017, it started by saying use AI in a core part of the business and at scale. But by now, 2025, it says regular use AI in at least one function. This is probably the loosest definition yet. Regular use is deliberately vague. Could mean daily, could mean weekly, could mean monthly. Could mean one person in one department using ChatGPT to summarize their meeting notes. McKinsey puts this in the footnote. They're not hiding it, but how many people really read the footnote when they download and scroll through the charts? Now, here's what else the report shows. When you ask where these companies actually are in their AI journey, there are about a third are still experimenting, a third are piloting, and only a third using AI at scale. And just like 7% are fully skilled. So now we go back and look at that 88% of headline. Nearly two-thirds haven't even begun to scale across their enterprise. So does that really count as part of the 88%? So when someone really presented a chart like this, showing that AI adoption has grown dramatically since 2017, you need to ask yourself, how much of this is real and organizational impact? And how much is the definition getting looser each year? The truth is probably somewhat in between. I do believe that AI adoption has increased throughout the years, but the headline creates urgency. Now let's look at where AI supposedly create value. McKinsey asks two questions, same time frames and structure, but two sides of the coins that you would see in the same company. So they asked, did you see any cost saving in your business unit because of AI? And secondly, did you see any revenue increase in your business unit because of AI? Now, if you put the respondent chart side by side, and you will see this pattern emerge. Let's start with cost saving, like software engineers and IT and manufacture. These are the typical production unit. They are top of the charts when it comes to cost saving. What about revenue gains? Now, the second chart is about revenue. You suddenly see that production unit has gone down, but the earning unit now ranked to the top of the chart. Why this happens? Now think about how companies actually work. You typically have your production unit and your earning unit. Production units are people who build your product. It could be engineering, IT, manufacturing. And people who earn, like selling, responsible in selling your products would be marketing, sales, and other customer-facing teams. It's easy for build units to prove that they have saved cost. They could automate tasks, they could reduce processing time, and they could cut manual work. And that's how typically they measure output. But revenue for the build side, that is so indirect. A developer shipped a feature faster. Did that drive revenue? Maybe. But attribution goes to product for specifying it, marketing for promoting it, sales for closing the deal. Meanwhile, marketing and sales, they live their day to day in revenue metrics already, like conversion rate, customer acquisition cost, deal size, etc. Their dashboards are built for these kind of earning questions. So when McKinsey asks, did AI increase revenue? Of course, marketing say yes. They can point to the number. And this isn't anything to do with AI, as some of you probably already aware. It's more like a flaw in measurement. The implication here, especially if you're someone who work or run a production unit, don't expect AI to show up on the revenue in a quarter report if you didn't have a prior conversation with C-level or your managers about it, because it's typically hard for people to tie your KPI with the actual contribution in revenue. Of course, I'm not talking about the companies like Nvidia or AWS that they break down their product line in the revenue report. So that's something else. Now, a quick detour on AI agents. The hype has been relentless. What does the data say here? So this one is interesting, and I feel like this one has some value of reference. Now, the chart's basically showing you no business functions has exceeded 10% of agent adoption at scale. As you can see here, that IT led like close to 10%, and then knowledge management, and then marketing and sales, and so on. McKinsey framed this as early days, which means, look, we know the number is low, but this is the floor. But what if this isn't the floor, but this is ceiling, especially ceiling that indicates the current AI agent's capability? Now, agents need specific conditions. You need defined workflows, predictable decisions, tolerance for errors, and good feedback loops. Now, most functions just don't have that kind of certainty. They involve judgment, context, ambiguity, compounded consequences. Now, those are the kind of tasks that only humans can do. This set of data, I believe, might be showing us exactly where agents add value today. And it's much narrower than the media or some moment would like to believe. Now let's track the trajectory when next time when agentic AI has its improved capability. And then we will know if the ceiling is rising or is it still moving flat. These kind of observation matters so much more than the numbers itself. Now we get to the core of McKinsey's argument, and I do want to be fair here, so let me actually make their case before I complicate it. Now, McKinsey's definition of AI high performance, two criteria. One, more than 5% of EBIT contributable to AI, plus reporting the significant value. That altogether accounts to about 100 companies that they have surveyed. And those companies do things differently. What they found is that they are more likely to pursue transformative changes with AI. They are more likely to do a fundamental redesign workflow for AI adoption. And their senior leaders, of course, demonstrate ownership, not just delegating it to IT and then completely forgot about it. And they also have a defined roadmap. So those were the big factors of these 100 companies of AI successors has reported. They do more than just those, of course. If you look at the report, they do about 20 things differently across 6 different dimensions. So you're looking at strategy, talents, operating model, technology, data, and adoption, and so on. And they invest more. This is Exhibit 15. It says one third of high performers spend more than 20% of their budget on AI versus just 7% of everyone else. If you read this report quickly or you're just scrolling through the chart, the message actually seems clear that you have ambition, vision, you have discipline, execution, serious investment, and so on. It sounds logical and it sounds like a serious playbook. And now, what I'm going to show you is why and where this logic falls apart. Let's do a calculation that McKinsey didn't do for you. Exhibit 15 shows the data. I'm going to walk through it slowly. Like if you look at here, there's 100 AI high performers out of 1,000 something other respondents. Among the high performers, you see like 1/3 of 35%, okay, to be precise. 35% of 100 is 35 companies. Among everyone else, there was also 7% among those 1,000 something respondents also invested more than 20%. So if you do a quick calculation, it's about 70 something companies. So in total, you have about 100 something companies that make big AI investments. Now, 1/3 of them became high performers, whereas the other 2/3 didn't. Which means if you spend more than 20% of your total budget on AI, you are more than twice as unlikely to become an AI high performer. So just let it sink in. Does that really make sense to you? I'm quite sure that this isn't the conclusion McKinsey wanted you to draw, but that's what the number says when you actually calculate them. Spending big on AI actually doesn't guarantee success. The majority who spend big didn't make the cut. So what's actually going on? Turns out this is a survivorship bias. High performers have more resources to begin with. They were probably much more enthusiastic about technology before they invest. They likely to have strong digital functions, better data infrastructure, healthier organization dynamics, and so on, and survival bias. When McKinsey listed their best practice, the agile delivery, the roadmaps, the talent strategy, and all the goodies, are those the cause of the success? Or is there something else? Or maybe are there things that already successful companies that can afford to do because they have the resource and the momentum? The reports just can't tell you any of those, and McKinsey wouldn't try to untangle any of those, would it? What you're reading is correlation dressed up as causation. Winner behavior abstracted into playbook as if copying the behavior would produce the same result. But that 2/3 of companies who equally spent big and failed probably had roadmap too. They probably also have executive sponsors, probably also follow the best practice. We just don't have the chance to learn anything about them because there is no incentive for McKinsey's analysis to go through that kind of detail, and that deviates from their target. And because of how they reported, they basically lumped everyone that's below some certain threshold of EBET into one undifferentiated bucket. So the failures become invisible. No one can actually learn from the failure cases. So what do you actually take from this? First, measurement really shapes the result. If your function reports cost metrics, AI will show cost win. If your functions reports mostly revenue metrics, and of course, once you adopted AI, it will also show revenue wins. This is organizational accounting rather than AI capability. You need to understand the bias before you benchmark. Now, second, watch trajectory, not snapshots. Ignore these kind of percentage and number the big wins because there is always caveats behind those big wins. Now, agentic adoption, for example, at 10% could be early days or could be a steady state. It really depends on how large language model and the agentic builds on it improved. Whether it's racing or flat, what tells you far more than the number itself. Third, you need to separate ambition from causation. Now you have high performers who are ambitious, of course. They spend more, they do more things, but the ambition causes success. Or if there was just simply survival bias, the data just didn't distinguish any of these. So do not assume once you copy behavior, you also copy outcomes. Does not work that way. Now, fourth, demand better analysis. When someone presents high performance, especially when someone like took a screenshot of this kind of report and tell you, hey, we should adopt AI because we've been left behind, ask questions. Like, how many companies did the same thing and failed? what are the base rates and what are the counterfactuals. If they can't answer these questions, they're selling you a narrative, not insight. Now, last one. Understand why you're being told this story. McKinsey is a consulting firm. The report is designed to create urgency and get your email address. That doesn't make it wrong, but it means that you should read it more like a marketing material rather than research findings. Overall, this report is useful as temperature check and nothing more. AI use is broadening, and I believe the adoption is real, but it's also constrained, and the enterprise-wide profit impact remains rare. Just don't chase the high performance status without understanding the footnotes. And definitely don't copy their playbook while the most important questions remains unanswered. From a veteran like yourself, the true insight always comes from asking better questions informed by your experience, your instinct, and your context. Now, I hope you enjoyed this. Subscribe and see you next time.